This conference will now be recorded.
All right. I'd like to call to order the Village of Ashwaubenon Park and Rec Board for Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Chris Serbo.
Here.
Tracy Flukie.
Here.
Heidi Murphy.
Here.
Mark Castonia.
Here.
Donovan Miller.
Here.
And Ron Mowerman.
Here.
All right, if you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please remember our men and women here and abroad that are help keeping us safe. Action on the minutes, or the action on the agenda.
Did we want to move swim club up? Because I think most of the people here are for swim club, or is there other ones that have people that are here for?
Say that again, Tracy?
I was just wondering if we wanted to move swim club, so 9C up, since it appears that there's most of the people in the audience are from swim club, or are there other people for the other two items that we want to leave it like it is?
Anybody got a thought on that? A and B will go, I would think, pretty quick. Or are we gonna have some,
Up to you, that's fine.
I think we can get through A and B in pretty
Okay.
short order.
Then I make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Action on the minutes from July 18th, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the items. Personnel issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named. Board is not able to take action during this meeting. Anybody here want to speak about anything not on the agenda today? So I don't think anybody's on the interweb. Again, anybody want to speak? All right, we'll move on to 7, written communications or announcements. We have no communications. Anybody have an announcement?
Artstreet this weekend.
Artstreet this weekend, that's right. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Correct. Ashwaubomay Park, scheduled on, there's a link on the Park and Recreation page. There's a link to Mosaic Arts and the whole schedule of events on the Ashwaubenon Park and Rec Facebook page. So feel free to look that up if you don't already have plans for this weekend. The weather's supposed to be pretty good.
Okay. That was my wife and I's first date. So we always go. I have to go. Action on consent agenda. Oh, yeah, we don't. All right, action items. A, consider, discuss, act on Second Amendment to the lease agreement between the Village of Ashwaubenon and the Cornerstone Community Center. Rex.
All right, Cornerstone Community Center has 3 sheets of ice. Cornerstone is proposing a 4th sheet of ice, fairly large structure, which would be to the south of, I believe, rink number 1, which is where St. Norbert Hockey currently plays. The new rink would be fully funded through private donations as well as revenue once it does get built, so a combination thereof. It would be the new home of St. Norbert Hockey, both the men's and women's teams, as well as other different events. The 4 sheets of ice would only allow Cornerstone to grow the number of tournaments and events that they could bring in, and certainly to handle the growing high school hockey program in Northeast Wisconsin and the state of Wisconsin, really. I don't know, Chris, you probably have a better idea. Pettit has five sheets, I believe.
The Pettit?
Yeah.
Ooh, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, we're I think they have. Anyway, 4 sheets would. They're excited about this move, hopefully moving forward. So what's happening is a couple different things here. It would go to the south. Now, obviously, the land to the south is parkland. It would, the proposed footprint would go onto the tennis courts, which is also parkland. And it was used by a combination or a good amount of money. The whole thing was built through TIF as well as park development funding. So we've worked out negotiations with Cornerstone. We would be getting, for them taking that land, and then for them using the tennis courts, which we currently use, and the high school currently uses for the JV program as well as Parkview. For that, we'd be getting a fee payment of $400,000 over a 20-year period. We asked for $100,000 up front. What that would allow us to do would be to light the Pioneer tennis courts, which would then allow the school district to better schedule, because there's 7 courts at Pioneer, and so it'd be better able to schedule then the varsity, the JV, and the Parkview throughout the evening. In other words, they wouldn't be so worried about when it's going to get dark, and we can't practice that late. We have to go earlier because it gets dark at this time. So the proposal then is to use part of that $400,000 to light the Pioneer tennis courts and to do maybe some additional amenities there, whether that be seating or shade structures, so on and so forth. Other talks of that $400,000 would be to build additional, either a standalone tennis court or two at a different park in that area of the village, or to do the same thing, only build pickleball courts, which is something that has that we typically get requests on, because the only ones we have right now, we've got a bank of 6 over at Fort Howard Park, which is on the opposite side of the village. So there's a lot of different options out there. In addition to moving of the tennis courts, which is what the $400,000 would be for, we asked our village assessor for to give us a dollar amount for the land that was going to be used for the footprint, which is an additional $160,000. So really, we're talking about a total payment by Cornerstone of $560,000 over the course of 20 years, with $100,000 of that being upfront, so that we can do some things to the Pioneer tennis courts, fairly quickly out of the gate, minimizing the impact to the high school program. I think, again, we've had a number of discussions. A couple things that we also talked about was the parking lot lighting. Right now, the village is paying for the original parking lot lighting. I want to say the original parking lot lighting. And then Cornerstone is paying for the larger lot to the northeast, as well as the mini lot at the third rink's entrance. That would continue. The parking lot that would be added for this fourth rink would be their responsibility for maintenance, actual asphalt maintenance, as well as the lighting. But we would pick up the snow plowing operations of that additional lot. Sorry, going back to the original point, the parking lot lighting costs on the original 2 lots would now be split 50-50, because half of it's being used for park and recreation programs and permits that are out there. The other half is being used literally daily by ice center users. So we felt that this is a fairly good agreement that we've worked out between the two, good enough to now present it to the park board and to the village board, and see if everyone's good with it, so we can get on with the groundbreaking ceremonies. So what I guess I will do is ask if there's any questions on the lease agreement, or if there's any concerns that we may need to do some last-minute alterations. Otherwise, what will probably happen is this would be going to village board next Tuesday for approval, soon followed then by groundbreaking. Ron?
I guess I've got a number of questions.
Mm-hmm.
The assessor said the land was worth $1 million.
160,000 for the footprint of the.
Okay, I thought I read in here someplace where we were looking at $1 million.
It's $1 million for the courts.
Okay,
for the-
one,
that's
yeah,
the cost
okay,
for the courts.
thanks for the the cost, if we replace the courts, would cost us $1 million,
If we were to build them new, correct.
right? And if we are only getting 400,000 or 560 when you throw in the 160, that to me doesn't seem like a very equitable amount.
The condition of the courts is less than desirable right now. The village would probably need to spend 300,000 to 400,000 at a minimum to, I want to say, blow them up and rebuild them. But they are 24 years old with major cracking in them. So that's why we went at the $400,000 amount. Because it would cost that much regardless. Even if we did, if this was denied, it would cost us that much to redo them.
Okay. Next question. It says in here that some of the AHS tennis coaches have been informed / involved in the process. Is there anybody here from the tennis courts tonight that can address anything on the issue?
I talked with Raylyn Wingert, who is the women's tennis coach. Her program is just starting up right now, and she talked with her tennis coaches as well. So they have given us a couple of ideas that they were hoping for. They like the idea of the additional lighting, so that it can, and basically it would be on a timer, so it couldn't be used past 10 o'clock, but all 7 courts could be lit. The other thing she talked about was potentially having some shade structures, because right now that's just right there out in the open. Potentially some seating for spectator viewing, for their meets or for their matches. And maybe some additional benches within the fenced area for the tennis teams to sit on, which is easily enough done, the benches anyway. So those were the ideas that she gave back to me in an email, which I'd be happy to forward on to you, Ron, if you want to see it further. But those are some of the thoughts that I have relayed so far.
Okay, well, one of the things in here it talks about would allow for expanded teams to stack up their practices. And that, to me, does not seem like a very good solution from a standpoint of students having to stay later, even if they've got lighted courts. They're staying later on to practice and getting home later on school nights. That's probably my number one concern here. As far as lighting goes, that I don't have a problem with lighting them, but if we take away the other ones and then we have to double up onto the courts that we've already got, I don't see that as being a win-win.
Sure. No, I understand. The cost of the new courts was obviously a consideration, and where that ranks priority-wise for our capital improvement programs. I will say, I mean, it's up to you however the board wants to do this, but I will say that the majority of the other high school tennis programs, I mean, all have one bank of seven courts. So they all are able to do it with 7 courts. We've been very fortunate over the years to have 2 banks of 7 courts, because we've got a fairly good-sized tennis program, but I'm sure others do as well. And they're able to schedule things out appropriately to make that work. And so our thought was based on the costing, what it would cost to build a full new bank, because we don't have enough room in any of our current parks to build 7 courts plus additional parking. I mean, there's like a farmer's field, a couple hundred yards away that could be used, but that's why the cost, you're probably looking at between $900,000 and $1 million to build a whole brand new bank of courts as well as a parking lot for it. And with that cost being out there, that's the reason why we thought it's going to be better to light Pioneer and then put it back on the school district to do some creative scheduling of when the kids get to practice. So I don't disagree with you. 2 banks of courts is going to be better than 1 bank of courts, but there's other factors involved. And like I said, I'm not telling you, this is my opinion, but we felt administrative-wise that this would be the best route to go.
Well, that's why I would have liked to have seen some coaches here tonight to voice it personally, or students that will be affected by having to practice later.
So I think just to add some clarification too, so in conversations with the school district, we spoke with both the superintendent and the assistant superintendent as well as the athletic director. They did not have any concerns with consolidating practices, things of that nature onto the courts at Pioneer, especially if lighting was provided. They didn't even indicate that lighting was necessarily needed. It's certainly a value add to that court to expand the usage and provide additional playing time. In addition to that, we're under no contractual arrangement with the district to provide it a set of courts for their athletic program. So although we are excellent partners with the school district and we look to maintain that partnership and that relationship with the district, the courts aren't necessary for the community's usage, just if the school wants to maximize its practice time. So if the district certainly wants to provide additional courts, the district could certainly do that, and we could certainly partner with the district to accomplish that. But we're under no obligation to do that on behalf of the school district per se. Just to clarify one of Rex's points, so the $1 million to do a new set of tennis courts, that would be other ancillary items that would be necessary to support those additional courts. So if we were to locate them in another village piece of property, we would likely have to build the courts, build parking, build stormwater management. That's where the $1 million range comes from. If we were to build, as Rex had mentioned, rebuild the courts themselves, they fall within that $400,000 range based on present value.
So Rex, I have a question on the lighting for Pioneer. Do you have a cost estimate on that and a timeline? Because if we're gonna, it sounds like they're gonna break ground like tomorrow or whenever. When are we gonna have the lighting available for the school district to use the courts, and what is an estimated cost on that?
Still to be determined by the lease agreement. I can't really make any agreements to have stuff done until both the park board and ultimately the village board approve the lease agreement with Cornerstone. So regarding the lighting costs, we do have an estimate from Voss Electric. That would be what we based the $100,000 upfront costs for. They can start that project fairly certain. Still needs to be determined whether or not that can directly be done or whether that would need to be bid out. But the $100,000 is the estimate. Falls within the general estimate of what Voss has given us. LED lighting directionally sent so that it would minimize or eliminate any spillover into the adjoining neighborhood.
Just also to add to that and to kind of provide some clarity, so that concept was discussed with the district superintendent, assistant superintendent, and athletic director as well, knowing that originally when we were having conversations with Cornerstone, it was actually anticipated that they wouldn't break ground until after the fall tennis season. And so there would not be that conflict. Now that schedule has advanced and they have been alerted that this schedule seems to have advanced and it may have impacts on the fall season. So they have since scheduled all of practices, matches, and moved everything to Pioneer. So there shouldn't be any conflict with the district's activities this fall as it relates to girls tennis. There is tennis that's happening out there. My understanding is it's been other schools, not Ashwaubenon districts, participants. I think it was a private school in Green Bay that was using our courts at Cornerstone for their practices. That was not the Ashwaubenon program.
So the high school, with them losing the courts out at the sports complex in the fall, they feel they can run their program in the fall and not have issues by losing 7 courts.
Correct.
Rex, there was, I had jotted down a note here on the bullet points. On the third one, it says with the remaining funds from the Cornerstone Community Center, and it goes on about what they could be used for. The remaining funds out of where?
So remaining funds, so again, we'd be getting over the course of 20 years, the $560,000. Mm-hmm. So the lighting would probably cost roughly, give or take, $100,000. So now we're back to $460,000. So those are the remaining funds, which is a fairly large chunk. It's good enough to do basically whatever additional upgrades we want to Pioneer in addition to the lighting, and or to build a smaller, either single or double set of tennis courts, and or a small pickleball court area at either a current park or potentially a future park in the, in the general neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you.
The Highland Ridge neighborhood is where I'm going with that, because there's development happening back there, and there has been some very, very preliminary discussion of doing a smaller sized park back in that neck of the woods to take some of the pressure off of Sand Acres. And that's where we might be looking at maybe a set of pickleball courts or tennis courts.
Right. Okay.
So Rex, all the money is gonna go back into park development fees, correct?
I will let Joel answer that just to confirm or clarify.
That is correct. So, yep, they would go back into the park development fees to be used for future expansion, or as Rex had described, correct?
Okay, so it's 20 years before we'll get the total of the 560. So if we wanted to build the park in Highland and put tennis courts in, we could use park development fees prior to that 20 years because we would just use it out of the fund that's there and continue. So we don't have to wait till 20 years to be able to expend this money, correct?
Correct. So as long as there's cash on hand in the park
Right, in the
development
park
fund,
development
correct,
fees.
we could use that and then be more or
Reimbursed,
less
I suppose.
reimbursing ourselves for that, correct?
Okay,
Is there cash in that fund?
There is, I would have to do a little digging to tell you the exact amount, but there's a few $100,000, I believe, in that account at present under current fund balance.
I want to say we're probably at about 325, somewhere between 325 and 350. But some of that is specifically earmarked for the new Element Way Park that's going to be developed. And potentially for the addition, other bits and pieces, depends on what can be taken out of different TID districts. We're looking at the Argonne Trail, which should hopefully can have some work done on it this winter, and then in 2025, as well as the additional additional trail out at Ashwaubomay Park. So that could come out of park development, could come out of TID, to be determined as we move forward.
I mean, this is a really good project. I think the hockey facility has been well used over the years. They've run it very well.
Yes.
They've done a nice job, and they have a lot of people that come, a lot of tournaments. So it definitely is a great project, and it's nice to see it done. And hopefully we'll get some tennis court or pickleball courts in the future with some of this funding and be able to at least replace some of those tennis courts.
That's my hope too.
I know.
So what I'm looking for this evening is a vote on the lease agreement with Cornerstone that we've drafted up, and then a recommendation to Village Board.
I would support the lease agreement to be drawn up as presented here and have this pushed to Village Board for their approval in the project.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for the new lease agreement to go forward to the village board. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we have, 5 yeses and 1 nay. All right, motion carries. B, consider, discuss, act on approval of potential bandshell concept in Klipstine Park. Rex?
Thank you, Chris. Yes, I have been, myself and David, staff, have been working, and it's okay to say the name, our potential fundraiser / one of our donors has said it's okay to put it out there, but Mr. Ken Bukowski, who is a former village board member and fundraising chairman for our community facility projects back in 2015, is looking at trying to raise funds again for a bandshell in Klipstine Park. Now, some of you may remember that were on the village board or committees back during those facility project times. This was actually part of the overall Klipstine remodeling. We had talked about a bandshell back then. However, just due to different funding challenges, donation challenges at the time, it's one of the things that was eliminated. But it's just kind of been on the back burner and in some people's minds over the years. And we've got it on our corp plan as well. It's never kind of gone away, but it's just has been waiting for the right opportunity for funding. Ken has talked with a couple different individuals and is still continuing some fundraising discussions right now with others. But it looks like we're starting to gain traction on this project being viable again with the amount of money that that has already been committed. We're probably looking, and again, it hasn't been bid out or anything like that, so we don't know exactly what the final cost would be, but we're probably looking somewhere when it's all said and done between 350 and 500,000, roughly, because things are always a little more expensive. But I think some of the bids will also come in lower than what's on here, just my own personal opinion. Regardless, we've got about $300,000 committed to the projects right now, which is a fairly healthy amount. Again, $300,000 right now. So that can certainly get the project off the ground while we look for one or two more sizable donors to try and get this happening. So with us being at this point, it's time to bring it to you and to take a look at what the potential layout would be. This can certainly be moved around, changed, so on and so forth. But we're looking at a bandshell where our current concrete slab currently sits. It wouldn't be a high bandshell. Typically, when you go to other places, there may be a foot or two high with an ADA ramp going up to it. And then because we're losing so many trees within the middle of the park, we're also looking at adding in some shade structures. The shade structures shown on the map that you have in front of you are a little bit smaller in size. In reality, they would be bigger than that. We'd never have enough shade structures to take care of all of the people who come to our concert program because the whole park is full. I mean, they're all over the place. But this would certainly help those out that have to sit in the shade or wouldn't come to a concert without having that shade available. So I've got a couple attachments to this agenda item. One of them is the placement of the bandshell as well as the structures, kind of like an aerial view.
Rex, can you pinpoint that in the park? The map is hard to tell exactly where that would sit, and I'm not sure the slab you were just mentioning. Where would this sit?
Sure, if we could get it up on the screen, that particular map.
Is it where the tent is currently?
Yeah. I don't know if we can get that up on the screen.
Sing under?
So if you're looking at the map and you're pointing it north, in the southwest corner, what structure is that? That's the
So
corner of it.
where number 1 is on the map is where the current tent is within the park.
Where's the community center?
Everything is oriented the same. Community centers down to the right. You can see on where number 3 is, that's where we have our current slab with the row of picnic tables that were donated by the Lions. So everything is still basically the same, except there would be a bandshell instead of the tent. Orientation is not changed. Park view is, you can see right behind number 4, the pathway. That's the pathway that slides through the whole park.
What is the size of the slab that we use now with the tent?
The size of the slab that we currently use is 20 by 30. There we go. So I can go up to the screen and just point that out. One more down, so one size, there you go. All right, so this is basically the pathway that goes through. This is where the current tent is right now. You can see the picnic tables right here. The shade structures would be in the park. The community center basically sits right around here. And then Park View is up here in the upper left corner. And then the old community center is probably right around here. Old community center, new community center, Park View. So the orientation would be the same as it currently is. It would just be an elevated bandshell. We haven't decided. It depends on the amount of donations that we would be able to secure. There's two types that we were looking at originally. One of them, so on the next page, the three on the left are called a constellation, and the three shelters on the right of your agenda packet are called a Kokomo. Kokomo is about $100,000 less because it's all straight beams versus the constellation would need to be formed steel.
Can I ask maybe a silly question, but I always think of a bandshell having a back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So is this a standard now that they have just an open shelter like
You
that?
can do it either ways. One with a back would be more cost-wise.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, then I don't want to say it'd be a security concern, but it obviously blocks some of the view from behind. So if someone were to give a huge donation and said that we wanted one with a back, then we'd be happy to try and take a look at whether that would work or not. But right now, just due to costing, a number of them are open like this.
Okay. And it doesn't, I'm sure it has some effect on the sound, but the bands and stuff that are coming, they're fine with that, with an open shelter and just to have something to go under versus control of the sound a little bit more?
Really, it's not that different than a tent.
True. Okay, thank you.
It's just a nicer facility to play underneath. So what I'm looking for is feedback on the layout. And then if appropriate, and people are comfortable with the idea, the ability to continue the fundraising.
Would any village funds go toward this, or would it be completely fundraised?
We're trying to do complete fundraising for the structures in and of themselves. There probably is still some residual contamination from the late 60s, early 70s, very similar to the community center, the football field, so on and so forth. However, in this area, it's really minimal. It's basically trace numbers. So the only thing we would need to do in the village initially we've discussed of picking up the cost of just taking that material and disposing it off-site. And that would be the main costing at this point in our discussions for the village. Again, we've got to wait and see what the fundraising would do. Again, this is just your first kick at the cat. This is not, hey, we're giving you the go-ahead to spend this amount of money. This is just an initial design. Here's what we're thinking about doing. We've got a person doing some fundraising right now to try and get this off the ground to see if if we can make it have legs, which it seems like it's going to, finally, after almost 10 years.
So you're not, obviously, because we don't know where the fundraisers go, you're not asking us to narrow it down from these six. You're asking us, hey, here's a general concept.
General concept, idea of the bandshell.
Are we okay
If
with it?
everyone's okay, again, we're at that point now where we're getting pretty close to actually funding-wise having this happen. So now is the time for you guys to take a look at it and see any concerns, issues, changes that you would like to see as we're starting to propose designs for it to these donors.
Are we gonna have a lot of, work to do with, a few months ago, I guess now at this point, we had the flooding issues over the sidewalks and stuff. Is there new drainage gonna be incorporated into this particular project?
The bandshell in and of itself, Ron, would probably be about a foot high or so. So I don't, it'd be a little bit bigger than obviously the 20 by 30 concrete slab that we have, but I don't think it would be more that would affect any water flowage in the park. Underneath the shelters or the shade areas, the proposal is just all wood chips. Wood chips with just rows of picnic tables underneath them.
Well, it wasn't drainage there, I was talking about the path down below
Yep.
that, like I say, flooded.
Yep. So we were aware there's one section of the pathway that does gets wet every year. There's no plans at this point to change that, only because the more we disturb the soil, the more we have to take off-site. It's still an open site per the DNR.
I think there's always gonna be drainage issues there anyway it's just a wet.
But we have raised the baseball field probably at least 3 to 4 feet.
No.
And all that water that was sitting over there is now running into the park, which is part of the reason why the trees are stressed. And we're starting to lose some of the trees.
Blame it on baseball.
So and it was already somewhat of a wet park to begin with,
Yeah.
Even before the remediation took place. So it's just something that we would need to deal with, as time goes on, quite honestly. I don't think there's a way to get away from that because there's nowhere for it to go without totally spending a lot of money on further remediation.
So as I understand it, you're just asking for a motion to continue the fundraising? Is that fair, or how do you want to?
Yeah, I'm looking to see if there's any feedback on the shelter, on the shade, on the amount of shade, on the layout, anything like that from the group. Because we're trying to get a final design together so that we can get final costs to figure out how much do we need to fundraise.
Yeah. I personally like the Constellation look. I know it costs more, but we're doing it, and if we can have it fundraised, that's a great goal. As far as the slab, it's smaller than, or these structures appear to be many of them bigger than the slab, but I guess that'll all come out in the wash when we start the project, right?
Right. The shade. The bandshell would be larger than what our current slab is. I mean, our current slab's 20 by 30. I think, we were looking at this one maybe 25 by 30. We've looked at a 30 by 40. Obviously, the larger you go, the more the costs go up. Most of the groups that we're able to have for our summer concerts right now are able to do the 20 by 30 slab. So any enlargement of that
Just a benefit.
would only be of benefit.
Yeah, and you're using it every Wednesday, so.
Well, we're using it weekly, but it's also now, if we have a bandshell, what else can we use it for?
Right.
It's kind of like, if you build it, they will come type of a thing. Obviously, we want to try and work with the school district on having some, maybe summer school classes and whatnot out on, underneath the bandshell. I know we have made an initial reach out to Kate Green, who is the manager of our Performing Arts Center, of whether or not they would be able to use it all for any events or things they might have going on. So I think you would see more use out there if a permanent structure happened. So that's what our hope would be. But certainly our summer concert series is popular right now. But I think if we built a permanent structure, we'd even have more activity out there.
My other comment would be with the sun shades. There is a more horizontal type and then a more roof structure type. I would probably advise to go towards the roof leaning structure if it's feasible. I think there's a lot of leaf collection that could occur there, and then that would
Sure.
also.
If you take a look, there's one where rather than having one giant shade structure between the four posts, it's actually made up of different pieces, different triangular pieces.
Yeah, that's the
I
one.
personally like that one. I'm thinking that's the one you're
Yep.
alluding to, Donovan. And I like that because if there is a rip or if something gets torn, you're not having to replace the whole thing. You're only having to replace a section. So I think long-term maintenance would be better having it in different sections, which is why this style was initially chosen to be moved forward.
I think it looks great. Myself, I'd agree with him as far as the polygon constellation. If we're gonna do something, and we've got people coming, I realize, yes, it's more money, but it definitely stands out compared to more of a box-like structure.
Don't disagree with you. Again, I think the difference between the two is about $100,000. So it really depends on the donors, or if the village would be willing to front additional money towards the project for a different type of structure. But we're not at that point yet. So. Heidi, you're looking at me. What do you need to say? I know you got something brewing in there. You want to do it? Give us a
Write that
donation?
down, Rex. I'm biting my tongue. No jokes tonight.
So, are we comfortable sending this on to the village board, just a general concept here? Are we satisfied with this? And things could change going forward. I mean, if a donor came through with something unbelievable, I mean, this could even we could revisit this and end up on a bigger scale, correct?
Yes, we could.
So we're just looking at a general concept here, not really picking one side, Kokomo over Constellation or vice versa.
Correct.
It's been brought up numerous times, so I think I would support it moving forward. So
Okay.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's been on our corp plan,
yeah, forever.
For at least 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
A long time.
Something always pops up.
So, anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion that we move it forward to village board for their review then. Is that what we're asking for? Am I stating it correctly?
Yeah, Ron, I would say that. I would say that in the concept of just in basic that the park board would be in support of a Bandshell structure in general and moving it on to village board for approval to continue the fundraising effort. Something like that.
I got it.
Got it?
What he
Well,
said.
well spoken, Ron. Well
Yeah,
spoken.
well done, Ron. I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. All right, D, consider discuss act on request for Mosaic Arts to sell alcohol at Ashwaubomay.
No. I think,
I already skipped right past you guys. Cow. Sorry about that. All right. Discussion on request by Ashwaubenon Swim Club to allow non-residents, non-open enrolled members.
okay, at the last park board meeting in July, we had several members of the Ashwaubomay Swim Club ask that this be put on our agenda tonight. The request is that we open up enrollment in the Ashwaubomay Swim Club to anyone, basically. And so I think there are a number of people in the audience here tonight. I would, whoever the spokesperson would like to start out, I would say that they are welcome to come on up here and I guess state what they would like to see, and then the park board can have their discussion on it.
I make a motion to open the floor.
Second.
Do I just, okay. Second, third, fourth it?
Okay.
You can
we
have that
Motion
one.
and a second, open the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, floor is open.
All right. Well, thank you for allowing us to come back and speak with you about this. We look forward to working with you and coming up with an idea that hopefully will work with everyone with our co-sponsorship that we have. We've really appreciated the co-sponsorship throughout the history of Ashwaubenon Swim Club. It's worked really well for a lot of reasons, and the facilities that we have are beautiful and have worked out really great for the large events that we've recently brought to Ashwaubenon. The last 2 years, we were very fortunate enough to host the 10 and under state championship swim meet, which brought over 500 families from around the state to Ashwaubenon, and nothing but incredible remarks about our facility and our village and everything we have to offer. So that's been a great thing for us and you as a village, so thank you for that. What we would like to discuss is just an opportunity for our swimmers, because our swimmers in Ashwaubenon are at a bit of a disadvantage in comparison to a lot of other teams in the area. We're only able to draw from our village residents, which it makes it really difficult for a lot of our age groups to have relays with enough swimmers to compete at the local and state level, which is where we are very competitive. Within our team, boys versus girls in different ages, of course, vary, but we want the experience for our swimmers to be the same as the experience for swimmers throughout this area. And right now, the wonderful swim teams we have in the Green Bay area can offer that, and we cannot. So in order to stay competitive and to allow our swimmers to have that full experience, we're hoping that you would consider opening this to non-residents. We are absolutely willing to discuss what that might look like, whether it be non-resident fees, putting certain percentages on things, not looking to take swimmers that are already established, of course, on their teams, but looking to expand into that West De Pere area where we have Ashwaubenon residents, but West De Pere School District kids. We've gotten a lot of emails from families in that area as well, and hoping just to kind of expand our community of Ashwaubenon into that area and show off these wonderful facilities we have, as well as strengthen and better the experiences for our own swimmers.
So my first question lies in where, like, I think Rex, in your documentation, it states that if we opened it up, they would not be a co-sponsored organization. Why?
Because the village funds our co-sponsored organizations, and if typically, and so there's a little bit of a history here of how this all came, why none of the co-sponsor organizations allow the non-residents. So number one, just to clarify, you can be a member of any of our co-sponsor organizations, save for special children. If you are an Ashwaubenon resident, no matter what school you go to, or if you're open enrolled. If you are open enrolled, then you're also eligible for any of the co-sponsored organizations. So just to clarify that. Prior to, well, really, it kind of culminated right when I started. The Ashwaubenon Swim Club and the other co-sponsor organizations were directed by our village board to become strictly, at the time, for Ashwaubenon residents. And then open enrolled kids were soon thereafter allowed in. The reason why we have the co-sponsored organizations, it's because Ashwaubenon taxpayers are paying for the recreational opportunity for their kids to participate in what sports may be co-sponsored. Ashwaubenon tax dollars are used, whether it be for Ashwaubenon Swim Club, whether it be for Ashwaubenon Youth Baseball, Ashwaubenon Youth Softball. Taxpayers are paying for the Ashwaubenon kids and ultimately the open enrolled kids as well to have that opportunity to participate in whatever sport they choose to do so. And the village feels that self-direction, within certain guidelines of those co-sponsor organizations be best done by a board, which Swim Club has done a great job with, Megan has done a great job with, Tim has done a great job with over the years, as well as the other ones as well. But if you're going to open it up to anybody, whether you have limits on it or not, it's no longer a co-sponsor organization. It should not then be sponsored by the village. There should be no taxpayer dollars used for that sponsorship, because really then, and it's not just swim club, it's for soccer, it is for baseball, it's for softball, it's for any organization. If you're opening it up to anybody, then there should be no subsidy given by the village, because it becomes no different than any other club team wanting to use any facility that's out there, whether it be baseball fields, softball fields, the swimming pool, the wrestling mats, or anything else. That has kind of been historically what's been happening. Back in the day, the concern was with the swim club. And Megan knows this. She was certainly here during that time as well. And this happened not only with the swim club, but other sports prior to 2005 as well, when it was more open enrollment for anybody. People were taking spots for Ashwaubenon kids. A lot of kids were being recruited, which is fine. That's what a club does, right? You try and bring in not only numbers, but good swimmers to make your club stronger. Well, unfortunately, that was having an effect on the Ashwaubenon residents. Certain teams, certain positions, certain races, so on and so forth. Again, across the board, not just one organization. Ashwaubenon kids were being put down at a lower level in lieu of those kids that, number one, never lived here, and number two, were not open enrolled in our school system. And there were quite a few people that were not happy with that, because they felt that then their tax dollars should not be going to co-sponsor organizations if it was just a club situation. They wanted their co-sponsor organizations for Ashwaubenon children if they were to be given that designation. So with that, Park Board and Village Board at the time directed the organizations to follow those rules if they were to become a co-sponsored organization. And they all did at that time. So that's kind of the history behind it a little bit of why it's a co-sponsor organization. Basically, it's because, number one, Ashwaubenon taxpayers are supporting it, and number two, at what expense? Well, we don't want it to be at the expense of the time, the coaching, the ability of Ashwaubenon residents. We don't want kids that may never even go to Ashwaubenon schools to have that ability to go to the bigger meets, to be on special traveling teams that Ashwaubenon has at the expense of our own kids that live in the village, whose parents pay taxes.
We don't have any more kids.
Well,
We're running out of kids.
you were able to make it run this past year. I'm not saying that the numbers are what they were 10 years ago.
I'm just saying the population of Ashwaubenon is aging, and there aren't a lot of our housing stock.
And if you choose to open up a co-sponsor organization to anybody, that's fine. Then they just would lose their designation.
Is that in writing? Like, are there bylaws or?
There's general bylaws,
articles?
and I'm paraphrasing, Heidi.
Yeah, no, I'm asking.
I mean,
questions,
there's
Russ.
a lot of other village board and people that can I guess back me up on.
It's not that I'm questioning that. I'm just out of curiosity to make sure that I am making an educated decision. It has nothing. I'm not questioning you whatsoever. I am familiar with articles of agreement and bylaws and that sort of stuff, and that's just some evening reading for me. So that's why I'm curious about it, because I want to make an educated decision. I don't.
Understood. This is
2005 was 20 years ago. So if we're basing a decision on things that happened 20 years ago, how are we doing a service to our community at this point?
Again, I'm just relaying the information of the history of what's happened in the past, what the reasoning has been in the past, and it's up to the park board and then ultimately the village board to make any decision. So this is not Rex's decision. I can give you my thoughts,
Oh, I know them.
but this is up to the park board. This is
Okay.
bigger than me. And quite honestly, it will affect, because if you allow one.
Oh, that was my next question. If you allow one, do you have to allow them all?
It's gonna go right down the line.
Okay. And then as far as like the rec programming, like the park and rec programming that we do, that's open to non-residents, correct?
Ashwaubenon residents priority registration
Okay.
for all of our classes. The majority of our classes are filled by Ashwaubenon resident spots. Let's say swim lessons, for example, probably 90 to 95%. And then we kind of round out some of the classes with additional, non-resident registration, which is fine because there's no
co-sponsorship there? There's no taxpayer money paying for those programmings?
Most of the classes we offer are all self revenue.
Okay.
Like they pay for the costs, except for like the park programming, the open park programs,
Which ones?
the 7 parky programs that we have.
Okay, the parky programs?
Yeah, those are open.
Got it. And non-residents can go to those, right?
Anyone can go to those.
Anyone can go to those, okay.
Historically, Heidi, just to give you some more history on co-sponsored, it's been around since, well, in the 90s, before I got here in 1993. And my understanding of it at that time and to this day is co-sponsored groups are to give children a little bit more than a typical Parks and Recreation Department can provide for them. And great volunteer organizations get involved, they help out, they do a bulk of the work, they run the programs, they register. But the village also is very intricate in each of those programs. They provide insurance, and please correct me, Rex, on this, they provide insurance for the organizations that comes through the village.
We do.
They also provide maybe some payroll that comes through the village.
We do.
So there are some extra things and they also provide free use of these facilities. The village has to maintain the ball fields, maintains the soccer fields, maintains the pool, all at a cost to the village and the taxpayers of Ashwaubenon. And co-sponsors have always been for residents of Ashwaubenon. So our children had that advantage, and our taxpayers and our residents were getting the benefit of those programs. When open enrollment started, then it was open to that, and then any person that lives in Ashwaubenon, whether they go to a different school, they still are allowed in our co-sponsored. Now, the regular programs that we run in the village are open to non-residents. And the reason they are is they pay an additional fee. Their registration may be a little bit later than other participants in the village of Ashwaubenon, so they're treated different. They don't get insurance, they don't get any of the nice things that all of our co-sponsors do to run their programs. So it's kind of comparing apples and oranges in a way, the way those organizations are.
The rec programs at the rec center aren't covered under the village's insurance?
The kids register, there's not, the insurance that they have for the co-sponsored is very different. They're listed under our insurance program, so like Ashwaubenon Swim Club or Boys Baseball.
There's a whole separate policy
for them.
Like a liability?
Yeah, there isn't for the different participants that come in, that just register for swim lessons or something like that. So, and it's a great program. It's allowed some really good programs.
So you guys are familiar, how do other communities do it then? Like if they're saying that Green Bay allows it to, it's not residents only, Howard Swamico is not residents only, I looked it up today. So how are those communities? Do you have any idea? I'm asking questions to educate.
I think they've
So
chosen.
Howard Swamico is not run by the village, it's all run privately.
Yep.
All of it, 100%?
I believe so, yes. I'm somewhat familiar with the Howard Recreation, Swamico Recreation, and they do not run any of the youth sports. There's a separate organization, wholly separate from the community that runs the youth sport program in those areas. So they can make their own decisions, because I do not believe that they're getting a lot of support financially from the village. They might be getting
Like obviously.
support from maybe some ball diamond maintenance, but
And like pool, like they use Lineville's pool, is that support from the school district then, or is that support?
that's school district support.
Okay, that's not the villages,
No,
the village of Howard.
no, that's all school district.
And in the packet, you've got the sheet there that says the cost of facility use on the different pools.
Yeah.
If I could just speak to a couple points here, I just want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page with everything. I have been around since 2006. That's when I started coaching at the Ashwaubenon Swim Club shortly after Rex got here. And I did walk into this co-sponsorship. Again, we do appreciate lots of different things. Swimming is very unique when it comes to sports, unlike baseball, unlike football, unlike these other sports that are co-sponsored, that we don't have positions that students are vying for. We don't have specific positions that need to be filled. Every swimmer that's on our team has the same opportunity to pool time, whether we have 50 kids on the team or 150 kids on the team. How we structure our practices are very appropriately leveled. We have 5 very qualified coaches that work with very small groups, so even making these groups bigger would not look any different because we have the amount of coaches that would be appropriate to still run a quality program. So when you look at all of those things, I'm hoping that you will, as you're thinking about championing this idea, look at maybe swimming being a unique situation for those big reasons. Another thing is we do have, under USA Swimming, we have our own insurance, so that's actually the insurance that we do use, and not that we don't appreciate being under the village's insurance, but that is something, again, I think that makes us very unique. So as we're looking at this, we didn't come forward with all of the co-sponsored sports because I think swimming very much is set differently. While we do use the facility, the way we run things is very different and really unique in that way.
I also want to say too is if we would add 5, 10, 15 swimmers that are non-residents, not open enrolled, it's not going to cost the village any additional funds at all. We still have the same number of coaches that work the same number of hours. I submit the hours worked from the coaches to payroll. It's the same number. There's no additional cost because we're already in the pool. We're in that facility already. We're just using that time, and the coaches are using that time for those additional swimmers. There's no also, so, and we just heard talk about we're building a 4th rink for the Cornerstone ice facility. Well, we're looking at growing, the talk there was to grow hockey in the area, to increase the high school program, but all that is for additional out of Ashwaubenon activities to happen. We're talking about St. Norbert's coming in there. Well, they are not here in Ashwaubenon. So here we're talking with all the hockey and improvements there that we're going to grant a better opportunity for hockey to grow. Well, we're looking for another opportunity to grow swimming in our community.
And as far as the taxpayer money goes, again, rightly stated that it is taxpayer money to fund the pool. We do have additional non-resident fees, very similar to swimming lessons. And while this is kind of an extension to the swimming lesson program, we do charge our non-residents extra money that could absolutely go back to the village park and rec immediately to help offset any costs, to help revenue for improvements that needs to be made along the way. This is really a situation where it's not going to be more money out and potentially could be more money brought in.
I will jump in and say that it probably wouldn't cost more to the village to have additional kids on the swim club. I remember just a couple of years ago, the numbers I think were up to 87, 88 kids on the swim club. They're down a little bit right now, but they were up there in the mid to high 80s not that long ago. I think the cost per se isn't the dollar amount that we're looking at. The cost is at the expense of the Ashwaubenon kids. That's what the blowback was from the residents back prior to 2005. It was that when you go to some of the larger meets where you can only submit a certain amount of kids per event, it was the non-resident kids for a good number of those events, and maybe it's different now.
It is.
It is very different.
Okay, so it was only, you couldn't just enter everybody in every event, as many as you wanted to back in the day. The issue was that some of those better swimming spots at some of the better meets were going to the non-resident kids that were not part of our community per se. And I don't want to sound kind of like our community is better than others, but the purpose of the program is to provide opportunities for Ashwaubenon residents and for those children that are attending the Ashwaubenon school district or other schools within Ashwaubenon. And so I think the concern over the years that Park Board and Village Board has always had is that Again, not the dollar cost, because you can add more kids into the program. They've had larger amounts of kids in the program, so that's not the issue. The issue is we don't want it done at the expense of our Ashwaubenon residents, where they're taking spots, whether it be in meets, whether it be on traveling teams and other sports. We don't want that. That's not why we have co-sponsor organizations. Co-sponsor organizations are here to provide opportunities for those residents or those kids that attend the school district.
And just to make sure this information is accurate, swimming does not work that way. We do not have limits ever. It is unlimited entries in every age group, every gender, every event at every single competition we go to. So that is, again, very separate. So hoping that you will see us separate from the other co-sponsored in that aspect.
So,
Rex,
go
would
ahead.
it be fair to say that if we opened it up to them, we're opening the floodgates for any and all other all other sponsored?
I can probably speak on that. I'm extremely biased on this. I'm very curious to see where this goes, and I have a lot of biases. Baseball, running Ashwaubenon Youth Baseball, much as a swim club. This year at our 11 and 12-year-old level, we had 4 teams, and so basically every other week you played. You were playing each other every week, basically. And I'm losing players to the outside club organizations that are popping up all over. I don't know if swim has that issue or not. I don't know if there's clubs, but there's a number of clubs building around here, and I'm losing because they're telling they're pitching to the families that they have that you're going to get quality baseball, you're going to get playing time, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, and competition, right? So that's another animal. We're reaching out to look to see if we can partner up with other area communities. We do Babe Ruth level now, which is community driven. We travel out to different communities to play baseball, but I need to get it younger now because I'm afraid that if I have 3 teams, I don't know what to do with that age group. Yeah. And to start combining ages would be very tough skill wise. You're going to have a lot of complaints. So, however, Rex's comment about then I'll have the other problem is people will be out recruiting players to come play for Ashwaubenon, and then I could run into that situation where Jimmy, who is a Luxembourg kid, is promised to be the star in Ashwaubenon and then put on a pedestal, and then I have flack and feedback the other way. So I'm totally torn on the argument. Again, much as to the consent of them, I truly appreciate the co-sponsored angle of it. Like, we couldn't do it without, right? And yeah, so I'm so torn right now and in the middle on it all, and very intrigued in how this is going to go. And but I need to watch how I would pursue if something like this were to happen. So yes, we would be very interested in jumping on board, but I would have to be very careful about how it was done, because I do not want to go back to when I don't want to have the problem that these bylaws and co-sponsored agreements were created for. And it could happen really easy in baseball when you have 9 players that could play at a time and 13 on a team. So,
Chris, if I could just interject really quick. So I just have some general concerns administratively. So really what we're talking about tonight is making a recommendation of policy to the village board. So the park board, this is a programming type request of a policy change that the village has established related to co-sponsored events. So tonight's park commission is making an ultimate recommendation to the village board. I would, although I appreciate Donovan and his responsibilities as it relates to youth baseball, I'd be cautious to members of the body about their connection to the policy decision that's being made and the conflicts of interest that they may create. So because Donovan's involved in youth baseball, and this policy change would affect youth baseball and their co-sponsored status, I would maybe recommend for Donovan to recuse yourself, because it has a direct implication on that. And then likewise, if there are members of the committee that may have a direct tie to any of the clubs or the organizations or to the benefit that a policy change may make for either their club they represent or members of their family, or it probably would be in the best interest of those individuals to recuse themselves from that conversation. I know tonight's topic is specifically to the swim club, but it does have overarching considerations to the overall policy because it does affect the other co-sponsored clubs. So I just, for clarity purposes, the village's policy is at present that if you're a co-sponsored club, then the only non-residents that can participate and maintain that co-sponsored status is if they are open enrolled with the district. So if the village wants to entertain allowing additional non-residents to participate in the clubs that are not open enrolled students, they can do that. So the swim club could certainly do that today as any other co-sponsored club, but then they would lose that co-sponsored status, thus reducing or eliminating the payment that the village makes to the club directly for providing support to that organization. And Tracy has mentioned it, there's a variety of other administrative or other ancillary components to that, whether it's insurance, maybe the club doesn't need it. That's great because that's one item off their checklist. But payroll, things of that nature, some of those administrative things that come from the co-sponsored status, those would go away. So it's really the club would have to make that decision as to what's in their best interest. Allowing non-residents to participate in the program, and by doing so, now we've added some additional responsibilities and liabilities to the club, and that is okay, so you got to run that analysis. Or is it better just to maintain what we have with current resident status in order to maintain that level of support that the village currently provides through that co-sponsored component? And again, if whatever is decided with the swim club will likely have ramifications on the other organizations that are co-sponsored as well. So I can't guarantee it, but I suspect that if an exception was made for swim club, other clubs will come before the village asking for the same consideration, and you'll be tasked with that same concept then as to how you made that determination to discern between swim club and maybe some of the other co-sponsored organizations.
If the co-sponsor part of it is eliminated, you mentioned certain administrative things would go away, but would they also then be responsible for paying for use of the pool?
I will let Rex answer that directly, but it is my understanding that there would be some cost there, so that would have to be either arranged or meet other village policy, but maybe Rex can answer that more specifically.
That would be up to ultimately the village board to decide that. But typically that's how it works. We've got a number of private clubs, soccer in particular, that use our facilities, whether it be Synergy or FC Green Bay, and they all pay a rate to use those facilities, and they allow anyone in.
It would be just similar to renting the community center or a shelter in a park.
If we start to look at renting pool time, I just wanted to throw out kind of the repercussions of this. Swimming, like hockey, it's an expensive sport, just the way of how it works out. Our fees are lower than many other teams in the area, which is something we're really proud of because I think it makes it much more affordable for our swimmers in comparison to both Howard Swimico and Green Bay Swim Club. However, if we have to pay pool time, I've done the math on this, our costs would be astronomical. I think that would be such a negative hit to our team, to our community, to our families, that I don't know if that's sustainable. I think that's important to note. The other part of this is, too, as we look at an exception. We have one exception already for this co-sponsorship, and instead of maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not comfortable with this, but instead of grouping all of the sports together, again, maybe swimming is an exception because of that idea of we don't have these roles and spots and positions that need to be filled by certain players. It's more of an open thing to everyone. So like the exception for the special children's program that already exists, maybe that's something we could put swimming under differently from the other sports.
You know, co-sponsor, like we all are talking about, it's been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. And maybe, Donovan's talking about issues they're having with baseball. I think softball maybe their numbers are down. Everyone knows we aren't getting as many families in Ashwaubenon, so there's not as many kids to pick from. So I get all of that. So maybe it's a time right now that we rethink co-sponsored. We get a committee together, we look at it and say, okay, what really makes sense now? Does this still work? Do we still want to maintain the way we have been? And take our time and look at it
Yeah.
and see if it makes any sense and we want to make any changes to it. Because it's been a great program, but things change and maybe it's time to look at that and take our time and do it. And get a group together, get representatives from all the different co-sponsored and sit down with them, talk about it and see what's good, what's gonna work. And maybe we end up where we are, or maybe we do some tweaks to it.
Yeah, and that was gonna be my recommendation too, was, is there a way to sit down and look at these? And maybe it's not a cookie cutter plan anymore, right? Swimming is a lot different than baseball. I use a lot more village funds, having my ball diamonds groomed and running the concession stand and so on and so forth, then, you have the pool, which is an expense, but I've got labor all over cutting and doing and picking up trash and, so they're not all cookie cutters. So that was going to be I don't know if I could vote on this, but that was going to be my suggestion. I'm so torn, Joel. But if I lose the co-sponsored agreement, Ashwaubenon Youth Baseball's done.
Right.
We cannot stand. We have 200 and something kids from high school to T-ball. We're done. Like it will not stand on its own. Period. We lost one tournament last year. That's $25,000. That's a huge hit. We went from, hey, we're doing good, we can do all sorts of things, to like, yeah, gonna be a tight year. And you get another one this year, we're in a hard spot, right? So I cannot live without the co-sponsored agreement. So that's.
And Tracy, I appreciate that, because I think it is important to note that when that co-sponsor agreement was put in, that is 20 years ago, and we are a different community. Ashwaubenon is a different community than 20 years ago. Like I was competing high school 20 years ago, and I know what it was like to go up against Ashwaubenon. So I think that is something from an outsider's perspective that can be appreciated, because I'm not from here and I didn't grow up here. So noticing from the outside looking in how it has evolved might benefit kind of the players in the game to see what is a better fit moving forward versus always doing what we've always done, because I don't think that that's doing anybody a service right now in our community. And I'm saying that as a taxpayer, with youth in the schools, with youth in the programming, using the resources and using the facilities that this great village has to offer. So I think it is important to take a look at not necessarily where we've been, but how far we've come and how we keep going. And I think that's fair to bring all of the co-sponsored, like leadership from each of them, and kind of get input. I think that's fair.
Well, and I think we need to understand where we've been too. I mean, every one of you sitting here say these are great organizations. They are. The things that we provide for the kids in this community are phenomenal.
For residents,
For
not even
residents
kids.
in our community, yeah. And we don't want to take that away. We want to make it viable so the village can still handle it, so that hopefully the organizations can handle it and maybe do it in a slightly different way, or the village supports in a slightly different way. But maybe it's just time, look at it, see, and hold off on a decision with swim club and see what you can get together and figure it out.
I agree as well, Tracy. In fact, I talked to somebody today and I kind of made the same comment that I don't like doing things just because we've always done it that way. There is a time to say, hey, are we doing it the right way now? Should we change some things? Doesn't mean I agree with what's going on here right now. Is it the time now? I don't know. We'll decide that. But yeah, I think it's probably time that we do sit down with some people and start going, what's best for everybody, our residents and possibly non-residents that might be able to help the programs.
Yeah, maybe there's a way to incorporate them and that
My
everybody
concern
feels good about.
right now would be for our residents, if you lost the co-sponsorship and started paying, if I understand it right, more for pool time, losing the premium hours possibly, what effect that has on our residents' currency currently. You know, we do need to put our residents first. I understand your situation, But that goes back to what Tracy brought up, is maybe we do need to look at this, but we can't rush into sacrificing our residents right now either.
Right. Rex, what are your thoughts on that? I know it's more work for you, but, you know, it's,
Not, I will do what the park board directs me to do.
So I think if I could just jump in, based on what I'm hearing for feedback, I don't know that you're necessarily in a position tonight, based on your feedback just now, to make a recommendation to the board. And that's certainly an appropriate response. You don't have to make a recommendation based on the request from some swim club tonight. You're not under no obligation to do that. But based on the feedback, and what I'm hearing is that the park board would like to discern over additional information as it relates to the co-sponsored program. So my thought would be, we as staff, we can go back, we can identify all of the co-sponsored organizations, put that together in a report back to the park board. So we would list out who the co-sponsored organizations are. We can list out the value of the co-sponsored direct payment, or the value of that payment to the co-sponsored group. If there's anything that is provided in kind to the co-sponsored group, we would identify what that is, and to the best of our ability in a short period of time, identify maybe a value of that added value add. From there, we can talk with the co-sponsored groups and just get up-to-date numbers as to what their head counts are, so that you have that information. And then we can present maybe a potential few options for the committee or the board to consider as far as what that would look like going forward into the future. If you were to allow additional non-resident participation into the co-sponsored groups, could you do that without losing your co-sponsored status? Maybe there's additional payment that those non-residents have to make to kind of offset the subsidy that taxpayers are making to the group. I'm not sure. I'm just throwing out a couple ideas that could be possible options or solutions.
Could I also ask to see those bylaws or whatever is in writing about the co-sponsorship, just for education purposes?
Sure. Yeah, we
Thank
can
you.
package everything together into one kind of memorandum for the group, and then bring that back to the park board at a future meeting for your consideration. And then from there, hopefully you'll have adequate information to then forward a more formal recommendation to the park board that's consistent and all encompassing, that it's not just swim club per se, but it's all of them. Because I know, again, if we open it up now for just swim club, we'll have every group, so we might as well do the exercise now with every group so that you can make a more robust decision.
yeah, and I think the groups need to realize what the village is providing, because we provide a lot. And Donovan said that, what the village does for them is huge. And I think everyone needs to understand that, and what the impact is if we allow non-residents in, and how that impacts the organization and the village and what we're doing. Is it more work for us? Because now we have 10 more fields to do, or the pool needs, the system goes down more often because it's being used more often, or whatever the case may be. I think all of that needs to be considered and decide, where we're at.
I know I get approached a couple times in the spring during registrations too. They live just across the street, or they're over here, and their cousin plays here. So the other thought on that too, though, is as they get older and kids stay in school, then will they pull apart from Ashwaubenon anyway? But I don't know. I have to turn them away, so I guess I never think that all the way through. But
We have that now with Notre Dame. Take our kids all the time.
Yeah, and as we look at this process, I guess my hope is that we can just stay focused on making a good decision sooner than later, because we are starting to lose kids to other teams that are more competitive, and that in turn is affecting our swimmers. We have some passionate parents here tonight who kind of fall in that category of their kids don't have relays because we don't have enough kids. And again, those same kind of parents that are looking for other people to join their kids to make their experience better. And so hopefully we can all look forward to that sooner than later and just see kind of what direction this will all be headed.
There's a gentleman in the back that'd like to speak. If you want to step up into the microphone, please, for the record, your name and address, please.
Sure. Josh Walter, 977 Mansell Lane. I just wanted to talk to Heidi's comment before about aging residents. I don't know what the median, age is for the village, but I do know, that the number of children are dwindling, and I think we're having a great dialogue here, and, you know, Rex's concern, you know, with keeping village money with village residents and making sure that we maximize and our children's futures and things like that. And the question is, like, do we open this up to other residents and what the impact is? I just wanted to just say one statement on my family's side of things. If we don't open it up to other residents being able to be on swim team. My oldest son is 14 now. He started swimming when he was 7, and he has not been on a relay team for the last 3 years of people of his peers because there isn't anybody. He's either swam with older students that are in high school, or he's had to swim down with kids that are in elementary school on their relay team because there's nobody his age that are boys for him to be on a relay team. So when we talk about, you know, our kids maximizing their potential, my son has not for 3 years now because there's not enough people on our team that are boys. Girls, different scenario because it's typically a girls' sport, but that is one of the reasons why he has not been up to his potential, is that there's a lack of boys on the team.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion at this point, if we can.
Oh, we gotta close the floor. Was there anything else?
Yes, I just want to,
Motion to close the floor.
thank you, Tracy.
Second.
Motion and a second to close the floor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Floor is closed. Okay,
I'd like to make a motion that we table this for this evening for further discussion and research, and have that brought back to us in another probably 2 months. I don't think this is gonna happen that quick that we can do it in 1 month.
Just, Ron, probably September is going to be set aside for our corp plan. That's probably going to take a couple hours in and of itself. So good idea, probably 2 to
At
3
least
months out.
October, maybe November,
November.
depending on progress.
Yep.
Budget. I'd second that.
okay. We have a motion and a second to table the issue. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. It was a good discussion, and I think what'll happen, hopefully, is everybody will benefit from this. You know, you've probably started something here we probably should have done or thought about doing. And now, you know, as a board and as Park and Rec and co-sponsorship programs, so, thank you for doing that.
Thank you for allowing us to speak.
Thank you.
But I just, as a side note, if someone did not sign in, could you please do so on your way out? Thank you.
All right, now,
And don't feel like you have to stay for the rest of the meeting.
all right, D, consider it, discuss, act on request for Mosaic Arts to sell alcohol at Ashwaubomay Park, the Artstreet special event.
And Artstreet's actually coming up this weekend, so this was at the request of our village clerk, who brought to the fact that any alcohol sales in the park need to have park board approval. We've approved them historically in the last couple of years without an issue, so it's before you again tonight.
Do you know, were there any alcohol-related issues last year at the event?
No.
No? Okay.
Motion to approve.
Do they have,
Oh, go ahead.
I'll second. But go ahead, Ron.
do they have an officer on duty at the park in case something does happen?
I believe if alcohol is served after 4 o'clock, they have to have an officer on duty. I think on Friday night, they have music until 7 p.m. I don't believe one is going to be needed on Saturday night.
That was the only part that I was questioning with the times that we're living in.
Yep,
Fortunately,
totally understood.
It was run very well last year, and yeah, so I have no issues. Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a second.
Yes.
Okay, motion and a second to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, motion carries. I will say the only problem I think they had last year is they didn't have my favorite beer.
I didn't see that
Didn't have the
on,
White Claw, Chris?
didn't see that on the agenda. Sorry. Motion carries.
All right, items for next agenda. Anybody want to see any? Oh, no, we got department. Wow, I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, sorry, Ray. Not that you want to stay any longer than you have to tonight.
No, it's all right. That's all right. I like the park board meetings. I get to talk about the park and rec department, so.
Yeah.
Aquatics area, so I'm just going with the benefits report. We had over 14,000 people visit the lake in the month of July, just an FYI. Last week, Friday was the last day for swimming at Ashwaubomay Lake. We are closed. We had the doggy dip, excuse me, on Saturday with, again, I think close to 300 dogs. So that worked out well. It was it's always a fun way to end the year. And we're in the process. I don't know if we pulled the plug on the lake yet. There might be a repair or two to some of the ladders on the platform. If there's some repairs that need to be done, we typically leave the water in so that we can row out there, and whoever the contractor is can weld some of the repairs that need to be done. But soon to be drained for the season. Fall Learn to Swim program begins on September 9th. We're taking registration for that right now. Mel, I think we're almost full for a number of the classes already. Yeah.
Yeah, all of the classes for the most part are filled.
So
with
very
residents.
very popular. A lot of is it the girls swim season right now coming up? So we'd like to try and offer more classes in the fall. However, with the girls swim team season, those are a lot of our instructors. So I think we're offering 6 classes for the fall session, and they fill up quick. It looks like the conference relays are going to be held August 29th. The good thing about the Ashwaubenon pool is it's really brought in some of the more major meets, both at the high school and the private club level, so that's awesome. Forestry crews are doing a lot of the pruning right now. Foley's Tree Service is working on a lot of the emerald ash borer stuff. I know they're out in the Waterford Park area this week doing stump grinding. Most of the trees have been removed or cut for the street trees, so they're really focusing right now on the stump grinding. Once the stump grinding's done, then they'll start doing the leveling, grading, and then next year will be the replanting year, as well as doing some additional work. There's still some conservancy areas that have to have trees removed in, but for what the public sees mostly on the right of way, that work is pretty much completed or almost done now. Metal support stakes have been removed from the staff. I don't know if you guys are aware, but those metal stakes that you see a lot of times supporting the new trees, there's actually a color code. If you take a look at the very tips of them, they're different colors. Those are determined by year. Like white might be 2021. Orange might be planted.
You know, I'm gonna need to know the color code now, right?
What's that?
I'm gonna need to know the color code now.
I don't have. I knew you were going to ask me that. I just so I don't have that off the top of my head. But what that signifies is that lets staff know what year they were planted in and whether or not, because each year we remove the oldest year, because at some point you have to remove them so that the root system starts to take hold on its own without that additional support. So that's what those are for. So those have now all been pulled for the year that was supposed to be done this year. All right, ASC tennis courts. We're starting to move a few things off of the Cornerstone site in anticipation of future work to be done there. Fencing for the new park on Element Way was just put in this last week. We're waiting for the playground equipment. We're hoping to potentially get the playground equipment in this year yet. We'll see. It's all about the manufacturing process and timing, but we're looking at hopefully getting playground equipment in, and then next year, really you'll start to see more advancement on that new park. We've got the electrical plan has been sent to WPS for the bollards, because they got where's the power coming from? Where's the transformer going to be? Do we need a transformer? Where's the breaker box gonna be, blah, blah, blah. So that's all happening right now, being worked on. A plan is being made by staff for sprucing up the entry points to the village in preparation for the NFL draft. So we're looking at all the main entry points, not every single road, but the main entry points. What's it going to look like in April, and what can we do this fall to make it look good in April? That could be different types of mowing, that could be some Phragmites removal.
The hugest signs you've ever seen that say Ashwaubenon on them?
The cutest signs you've ever seen that say Ashwaubenon yet, anything like that. So there's a lot of different committees out there, but that's one that our departments has kind of been working on. Could be some flower pots, flower boxes, however, whatever a good looking economical way would be, of planting. We'd have some flowers grown in greenhouses, put in the boxes probably in April, and then brought out the week of the draft, so that those entry points have a little bit of color to them, and not the snow just melted and everything is gray type of entry point. We have finished up a kind of I don't want to say unexpected, it was unexpected. We got hit up in late spring by Valley View School. Hey, can you put some playground equipment in for us? And so we just did that at one of their playgrounds behind Valley View School. A little bit more intensive than we had thought it might be. I know they dug 43 footings, kind of fought through some bad weather because that's a kind of an exceptionally wet site that needs to dry out each time it rains. So we finally got through it. We finally got the wood chips put down, and everything looks great for the start of the school year. So it's always been a good partnership though with the school district. We certainly appreciate Valley View School letting us use the school for our day camp program. That's a little bit of a give and take there, certainly. Fencing repairs done at Ashwaubomay. There was a little work done at Ashwaubomay Park by Voss Electric as a donation to the Alumni Association. So we now have a couple of larger plugs that can handle larger bands. We don't have to hardwire into breaker boxes anymore. So that's always a good thing. Fall winter services brochure. So our catalog will be out probably within a week, is my guess. It's already online. You can certainly see it online on our Facebook page, but residents should have it in hand, within a week.
It looks really nice. I like the bridge picture on the front.
Good, thank you. Our neighborhood special events went over well. Sand Acres Park was on August 6th. That was our last one of the year. So we're winding down on our special event lineup. Really, we have Artstreet this weekend, which is not necessarily ours, but we do a lot of setup for it, or assist them with setup by moving picnic tables around, so on and so forth. And then we have our last food truck rally coming up on Thursday, September 12th. And that then pretty much winds up our special events for the summer season.
You said September 12th?
September 12th, I believe, is our
Is that later than we went last year? Was there a fall one last year?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. It's our Oktoberfest rally.
Will you have White Claw for Chris?
I don't think White Claw makes an Oktoberfest beer. We will have White Claw there for Chris to drink. And several Oktoberfest options for the others. Questions on anything happening in the department or anything that may be in the benefits report?
With regards to the park stuff, Waterford Park playground equipment gets an A+ for my kids.
Looks nice.
Thanks. Thank you. Glad they like it. We're still hoping to get some concrete in. It's all about timing, you guys. It's been a busy summer. The plan is still to put a concrete pad next to it with some seating overlooking the playground for parents to watch their kids. So hopefully we've got some funds left over from that to be able to add that. But I appreciate, Ron, the fact that your grandkids like the equipment. How'd they like the big slide? That's a big slide.
The only question was, after the rain, are the park keys going to come out and dry it off?
We drove around there and all those trees missing. We're like, it's naked.
Oh, it totally changed. So what Heidi's talking about is over at Waterford Park, a lot of the probably half of the trees in that were ash. And probably about a week and a half ago, I'm guessing, is when Foley's was in there to take them down. And it has really changed the look of that park.
Caught my eye.
Yeah. So we had done a lot of underplantings in the middle of the park, so we've got a lot of younger trees growing in the middle of the park. But because all the bigger ones we're basically ringing the exterior. Once those that get ground out, we'll be doing replanting there. The bummer thing is those are really colorful in the fall. I don't know if you remember, they were really vivid. So that's going to take a few years to get back, but what do you do, right?
Security-wise, though, I think the police can drive by it now and see what's going on out there.
So how is the bug flower garden doing out at the sports center that was planted around the
butterfly garden?
fence?
The butterfly garden is, part of it is still doing well. The other part is struggling because of rain runoff from the farmer's field that we're trying to deal with right now.
Rex, do you know where the groundbreaking is going to be for the new hockey rink? And will Village Board or Park Board be invited
Well,
to that?
there's been a couple changes. It was supposed to be tomorrow. The groundbreaking was supposed to be tomorrow. It's not, I don't believe, going to be tomorrow anymore. I think it's been pushed.
Okay.
Probably within the next month still.
Yeah.
But it's been moved a little bit.
Will you notify this committee and Village Board when it is, so if anyone wants to attend?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Rex, I see the summer day camps at $5.85 for weekly register. Is that up or down or average?
I'm sorry, where are you, Chris?
Recreation, there was it says record $5.85. Okay.
I was to say, that thing fills up in
Yeah.
record time always.
It filled up faster than ever. So this was every year. I mean, it totally filled up within 2 hours.
Yeah, wow.
By 10:30, I think we took registration starting at 8. It was filled by 10:30. Everything. 60 kids per week. We can't get bigger. I mean, we can, but the issue then is there's not enough room on the buses for the field trips. And then we have to be renting extra buses. And quite honestly, if you're over 60 kids on one site, it starts to become
Chaos?
a little bit more chaos.
More than 2 kids on one side is chaos, if you ask me.
So the number we're at right now is manageable for us. Questions on anything else going on? Or comments?
All right. Now, does anybody want see anything for next agenda?
Oh, you said the court plan is next?
I think the core plan will probably take us a couple hours at the next agenda.
Okay, is there anything we need to prep in advance for that?
I don't think so. I would just say try and, you'll get your packets. Your packet's going to be fairly thick.
Work on my jokes, is that what you said?
I didn't say that. Your jokes are just fine. Your packet will be fairly thick because it'll have a lot of comments from the surveys that are out there as well as the online surveys. So we're going to put everything on there, all right? But realize that some of those comments are going to be more maintenance concerns than corp issues. So it's going to be a little bit of everything, but still we want everyone to see what has been submitted to us. And then we'll pick things out of there and start placing it in the 10-year plan that we think might be appropriate projects as we move forward to recommend to our village board.
How many times is a splash pad on there?
There were, the last couple of corp plans.
I don't even know I talked to once, splash pad.
Yep, I totally agree. That's one of the biggest ones we have. It's trails and splash pads and pickleball courts. Those are the big 3.
How do I get something onto the cork thing? As we talked about earlier, I think at the last meeting, I'd be interested in seeing us get ADA doors to the restrooms at the community center.
Make that suggestion on the survey online, or we can mail you one, Ron, too.
Okay, I'd appreciate that.
Yep.
I'd be happy to do that. Make a note.
Thanks, Kelly. I think what Ron's talking about is the restrooms at the community center are not
Like down the hallway?
down the hallway, yeah, so you
Okay,
have
the
to,
big
you have to push
Force
them
them in.
versus having like a touchpad that,
Yeah.
where they automatically open. So it's, I think obviously there might be some people that struggle a little
Right.
bit trying to get in.
Good call.
And we've got the automatic on the door itself on the south side of the building, so they can get in
On the
room
entrance to
area.
the building?
At the reason I'm bringing this up is at one of the concerts in the park, the noon things, we've got a lot of handicapped people that are coming, which is excellent, but I noticed one of them trying to push a wheelchair plus having
Yeah.
to try and get through the doors, and it just isn't a workable situation without extra people.
Although I will add as a side note, they often use that single bathroom because sometimes they need additional assistance. So they do like that we do have that front bathroom as
Yeah,
well.
no,
They
I'm
use that
not
pretty often.
putting down what we've
Yeah,
got,
no,
I'm
I'm
just
just
saying it
mentioning
would
it.
be, anywhere you go today that's public, you hit a button and it opens up. And we've got the restrooms, to the best of my knowledge, they're equipped once you get inside for handicap.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'll take entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.